Hi there, my very good friends. Andy here from WhatCulture Wrestling, and WWE's new approach to premium live events is absolutely brilliant, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, this is a kind of thing that on the surface level, and when you read about it coming out a few weeks ago, you probably looked at it and you thought, oh, boring business move, doesn't matter, doesn't impact my enjoyment of the product, doesn't change what I'm watching on TV too much, it's all numbers and marketing and strategy and stuff. But what's happened here is pretty fundamental to how WWE handles its PLEs and how big, huge, and just popcorn worthy these shows eventually turn out. What WWE is doing in 2023 increasingly is announcing things on a shorter scale. So in the past, the company would announce certain events, particularly bigger ones like the Royal Rumble and of course WrestleMania. This is always going to be the case for WrestleMania. Like the best part of a year in advance, 9 months before the Rumble, here's the location, here's this, here's that, building, blah, blah, blah. Even smaller shows would get a similar treatment, maybe half a year in advance, whatever. But now, in 2023, WWE is taking a different approach. They're announcing things 2 to 3 months in advance, a much shorter cycle, and building a more intense type of hype. Rather than letting ticket sales trickle on and on and on for the best part of a year, we're getting them in one big flush because people are more pumped up, they're more excited, they're more fired up, whatever phrase you want to use. Now, Fightful reported pretty much that this was WWE's new strategy back in June, and I'm going to read part of their report to you right now. WWE sources told Fightful that they are tied to be as strategic as possible with PLE events, locations, and announcing them. The factors of economics, storyline, audience growth are all weighed when making these decisions. They also told us that by announcing PLEs individually, it allows each announcement to have its own moment, and announcing them individually and letting them have that moment is kind of what's key to all of this. What WWE has done on top of this, and I think this is part of the same strategy, is successfully tailored events to their location, particularly when they go international or they go somewhere they don't usually go. They've gone out of their way to make them feel special, and it goes a little bit deeper than just having a red phone box on the ramp when you go to the United Kingdom. They've built places and shows around the actual environment they're occurring in, and that seems really basic again, but it's had a really huge positive impact. And if you want to talk about this, we could go back to Clash at the Castle last year in Cardiff, Wales, of course, and build from there, but for the sake of simplicity, let's stick with 2023 and go through some select PLEs just to highlight the example. Royal Rumble, start of the year, 47,000 in the Alamo Dome. Yes, they've been there before. They've done several Rumbles in this building, but it felt colossal and the perfect way to build up to WrestleMania, which was in Hollywood of all places. After that, Elimination Chamber is taking place in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So what can we do to maximize this? What can we do to squeeze as much juice as possible from this event? Well, we can raise a hometown hero up to be the top babyface in the entire company. Sami Zayn, organically over like no one else in the business at that point in time, facing Roman Reigns, another movement in this big dramatic bloodline saga. They tailored the whole show around that, and it was kind of flawless. Tremendous stuff across the board. Maybe the match outcome wasn't flawless, but we'll probably still be debating that for another 10 years or so. Anyway, WrestleMania goes Hollywood. That was the gimmick, that was the theme, and boy did this feel like a Hollywood production. It was huge. We're talking to celebrity guests, the caliber of matches, the stage was one of the biggest, most dramatic, over-the-top, crazy things they've produced in years. It really fit the town in which it was being held. And then, of course, Backlash, Puerto Rico, Bad Bunny wrestling. We got Savio Vega showing up. Carlito's over here, and he's going to be starting again full time soon if he hasn't already by the time this video comes back out. They tailored it to the location. Zelina Vega, of course, getting her moment in her title match, and they really made the most of the hottest pro wrestling crowd of the year across SmackDown as well as the PLE. And then, of course, most recently, Money in the Bank in London, red hot crowd, built a whole week worth of promotional stuff in the city of London. There was buses driving around encased in banners, big media events. You brought back a British person in Drew McIntyre, Scottish technically, but we won't pick hairs. I'll pick hair. That's what I do. He came back, all of that stuff. And again, Money in the Bank felt like a bigger event for the way it was marketed, much like the other ones we've just gone through here. And it means that if WWE do end up going somewhere else that isn't the USA for WrestleMania in the future, as John Cena and his rapidly expanding bald patch unpacked at Money in the Bank, it's going to feel absolutely colossal. They've already done a phenomenal job in making what we normally class as like C tier, B tier PLEs like Backlash feel huge this year. What on earth are they going to be able to do with WrestleMania going forward? The marketing machine in this company is quite remarkable at times, particularly when you consider it on weekly television, right? Regardless of the perceived quality of an episode of Raw or SmackDown, which again you can debate until the cows come home, often the crowds at the weekly shows not that hot, right? There are definitely exceptional weeks here and there, but for the most part, you know, it's quite tepid in those buildings, or at least that's how it comes through on TV. I'm not there at the shows. I'm not experiencing these things live. Maybe it's totally different when you're in the building. But a lot of the time, yes, there are still some piped in crowd noises, and they're pretty easy to spot once you've kind of trained your way into figuring those things out. And the crowds aren't always as into it as they maybe should be, or you'd want them to be as a viewer. But then when you hit these pay-per-views, these premium live events, and WWE have done such a good job building towards them and making them feel special and like an occasion, the crowds are like the surface of the sun. You get moments like Sami Zayn on home turf challenging for the title, and you get Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico facing Damian Priest in one of the most gloriously overbooked great matches I've maybe ever seen. Just what an absolute riot of a thing that was. It bodes extremely well going forward, because I just go back to the days of like 2016, 2017 when pay-per-views felt like the least special thing in the world, right? When we were getting one every 2 weeks at some point and they were just rank and file. It was just a thing that we lived through every other Sunday. They weren't big, they weren't popping huge interest levels. They were mundane, they were rank and file. Now we're in 2023 and things are hugely different. And I think this is a colossal WWE success story that really more people should be praising the company for. For all there is to criticize about modern wrestling products, this is objectively just fantastic stuff across the board. Now, obviously, WWE's business hasn't been hurting over the past few years, right? They're richer than ever. They're making more money than ever before. They're extremely successful by almost every single metric you can point towards. Even TV ratings recently have been spiking up in certain places. And that hasn't always been the case for many, many years. So the point is, business was already really good. But stuff like this makes it even better, and it enhances the fan experience as well. Like, you're gonna look forward, if you're from the UK, for example, and we announce this show in your backyard, you're gonna be much more hyped up than you are going to be sitting at home watching a random fully loaded pay-per-view or whatever brand they choose to bring back. It's great stuff across the board, something they really need to be commended for, and it bodes extremely well for the future. It'll be very interesting to see, now that we're past this kind of run of international events in particular, how SummerSlam going to feel taking place in Detroit, and how are other more domestic shows going to be built up. Can they do that in the same way and tailor them around the city's characteristics? Obviously, we've got Mania in Philly next year. Maybe they'll make the most of that. We'll see, we'll find out, but it's going to be certainly a fun journey into getting there. And for me personally, I certainly look forward to these shows a lot more now that they feel like actual big time events than before, when it was just like, oh yeah, there's a show at the weekend. Yeah, I'll probably watch that, probably be good. Kind of have to for my job, but you know, that's how people consume these things. Anyway, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, you're gonna love this one that's sitting right here, and I'll see you later.